JoJo is dead, kimochi!
Yay.
Okay, whatever.
Now you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, if this show has time resets, then how the hell is there any tension or drama in the entire 25 episode run? And if you're not thinking that, good. You've restored my hope in the human race. Now the answer to my question is very simple. You see, time resets, as the name implies, reset progress, meaning that bad events that happened are erased by a reset, thus thwarting any sense of tension in a time reset show. That's not named ReZero, that is. ReZero segregates itself from the crowd by reminding the audience of one simple but extremely major point that adds, at times, an overwhelming sense of tension to the show, and that is that the good is also lost when you attempt to erase the past. ReZero is not a show about nihilism, nor is it about the worst possible thing happening all the time, no matter how much the show may feel like that at some points. Meaningful and enjoyable character interactions, conversations, and small but very memorable moments happen during the course of the show that give the characters a sense of depth, which creates bonds with the cast. These, however, are also erased when Subaru dies and goes back in time, and this is where the show receives its tension. Also, dying hurts. I know you're probably thinking, no shit, but some people don't see how the concept of pain and experiencing death adds tension to the show. But back to my other point. Nobody wants to lose their best friend. Nobody wants to ask out the girl they love just to be killed and have to build up the confidence to confess once again. Nobody wants to lose their bonds and connections with people after so much effort was exhausted to forge them in the first place. Some may argue that character bonds can be made up, so this is no big deal, but that's the mindset Tape Nagatsuki, the original creator of ReZero, is attempting to address here. We humans truly undervalue our relationships and interactions with other humans, and saying that these connections can be reestablished just proves the author's thesis. ReZero is very interesting because it makes the audience ponder whether having the ability to fix your mistakes is actually a positive or a negative ability to have, and I believe the show simply does not receive enough credit for its accomplishment of making its audience think differently about the entire concept of respawning. While time resets were touched upon a little earlier, I feel it's important to bring up the issue again and address the complaints associated with it, as it's the concept where most of the division in the show's audience spawns from. Two complaints in particular always seem to make their way into conversation through one doorway or another, and those are first, the idea of character development being non-existent because it is erased with time resets, and second, the conception that because Subaru can go back in time to fix his errors, he does not need to develop and live up to his mistakes. First, let's address the issue of erasing of character development. While Subaru may lose interactions when he returns by death, the show does a great job in attempting to not lose these extremely important plot progressing interactions when plausible. If the show is able to save a character's data, per se, in a certain dimension, it will attempt to do so. However, don't be fooled into thinking that the show will not throw you for a loop and refuse to make Subaru suffer and face the consequences of his ability. Luckily, ReZero makes each time reset feel very distinct, and as a result, having to obtain the same information and repeat the same task over and over again never feels like a bore. This is one of the biggest positives of the show, the ability to keep the audience entertained while oftentimes, especially towards the beginning, conveying the exact same information. For the most part, character development is not lost, and when it is, the information is recovered, therefore keeping the development of the cast. Lastly, and more importantly, let's address the complaint of Subaru not having any character development. Before I disprove this claim, though, let me say that character development is not a necessity to have good characters. Look at shows such as Shingeki no Bahamut, where the cast has almost no character development whatsoever. Don't worry, I'm not going to defend Mr. Best Boy over here with that fact. I just thought it was something I should address to prevent future misconceptions. Anyways, back to helping out Subaru. Subaru has character development during the course of the show, the most in fact, and it shocks me to hear that some people are incapable of seeing something so obvious. While his character arc doesn't begin until around halfway into the show, Subaru is given time to show his true colors. In episode 13, Subaru is exposed for being extremely narcissistic and self-indulgent, and his character arc is by far the most fascinating part of the show, entertainment-wise and thematically. Many times throughout this arc, Subaru is almost oblivious to the idea of him being wrong, especially when the world he was summoned to was created for him to always be right in his mind. I guess he thought he was me. By the end of his arc, he admits to his flaws and comes to terms with who he was. Subaru changes. It's not a quick change, but it's a big change in character nonetheless. How some people are incapable of seeing this gigantic shift in egoism and motivations, I am unsure of. Subaru's intention beforehand was simply to raise himself to a state of apotheosis. By the end of the show, however, it is very obvious that Subaru finally actually cares about other people and is no longer trying to just satisfy his ego. This was extremely apparent. I am unsure of how something so obvious could not be seen. And as a result, all I can hope for is the idea of humanity no longer being brain dead. And if that doesn't happen, I guess I'll just go kill myself.
Eat